If you clicked on this video, chances are you know the feeling. It's that nagging sense that sometimes the decisions in the most important areas of your life are being made by a computer infected with viruses. Think about it. Why is it that when some of us walk into a meeting with a potential client, we see nothing but opportunities, while others see a minefield of potential rejection? Why does one person view a relationship ending as a temporary setback, while another sees it as definitive, undeniable proof that they were never good enough to begin with? Let's be honest, even when we try to analyze our own actions and reactions, it's like we don't truly understand why we chose a certain path. Why did we say that? Why did we make that decision? Or why did we fail to act at all? It's as if we are following a script that we didn't even write. We often think these reactions are just who we are. We call it our personality. But what if we told you it's actually something much deeper and much more mechanical? Imagine your brain is the most powerful hardware on the planet. But as we grew up, before we could even choose our own beliefs, our environment, our parents, our siblings, and our early heartbreaks installed a set of background programs. This is what we call our reality firmware. For many of us, that firmware is riddled with bugs. In psychology, these are known as maladaptive schemas, distorted stories we tell ourselves that act like a filter over everything we see. In this video, we aren't just going to talk about positive thinking. We are going to perform a deep system audit. We are going to identify the 6 specific types of negative stories, the bugs in your code that are draining your emotional battery and keeping you trapped in cycles of self-sabotage. More importantly, we're going to show you how to debug that code and finally start writing a story that actually belongs to you. If you've ever felt like an imposter in your own life, you aren't broken. You just have a glitch in your emotional programming. Let's find out which story has been running your life. As children, we don't have an inherent sense of self. We learn who we are by looking into the mirrors around us. Our parents, our teachers, our siblings, and our friends. If those mirrors are clear and supportive, we grow up seeing ourselves as capable, worthy, and strong. But the truth is, no one has a perfect childhood. Sometimes the people holding the mirror didn't even realize it was warped or cracked. If you were constantly criticized by your parents, your mirror showed you someone who was defective. If you were ignored by your classmates, your mirror showed you someone who was invisible. Because you saw these distortions every single day, over time you began to believe that this was your actual face. This is exactly how the viruses we mentioned earlier get into your system. If your early environment was predominantly negative or traumatic, it didn't just leave you with bad memories. It corrupted your emotional operating system. Now as an adult, no matter how much success you achieve, how much praise you receive, or how much love is poured into your life, it feels like the data is getting corrupted. The virus intercepts the positive information and deletes it, leaving you feeling empty, anxious, and not enough, regardless of the reality. In clinical psychology, this process is studied within schema therapy. It suggests that we aren't born with these negative stories. Instead, we learn them when our most basic emotional needs, like safety, autonomy, and acceptance, aren't met. But here is the most important part, the part that changes everything. For a long time, people believed that once these programs were installed in childhood, we were stuck with them forever. But modern neuroscience has discovered a phenomenon called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is your brain's incredible ability to physically reorganize itself. It means your brain is not a static stone, it's more like dynamic plastic. Every time you learn a new way of thinking, you are literally forging new neural pathways and weakening the old corrupted ones. You aren't just talking about your problems, you are physically rewiring your hardware. The viruses might be deep in the code, but the code is rereadable. By identifying these 6 stories today, you aren't just complaining about the past. You are initiating a manual system override. It's time to identify these bugs one by one and see how they've been distorting your reflection for years. The first major bug in the system is the abandonment story. If you carry this code, your world feels inherently unstable. You live with a constant, low-level vibration of anxiety that the people you love are about to leave, die, or simply vanish without warning. We call this the guest syndrome. Even in your own home, even in a 5-year relationship, you feel like a guest who could be asked to pack their bags at any moment. You don't fully unpack your emotional suitcase because you're waiting for the inevitable eviction notice. How it manifests: the clinger. You become hyper-vigilant. You suffocate people with your need for constant reassurance. Ironically, this pressure often drives people away, which your brain then uses as proof that everyone leaves. The runner to protect yourself from the pain of being abandoned. You leave first. You quit before you're fired. You break up before they can. You'd rather be alone by choice than rejected by surprise. In psychology, there are 3 simple questions you can use to test yourself and understand if the abandonment story is influencing your life. Do you find yourself overanalyzing a partner's or friend's tone of voice for signs that they are pulling away? Do you feel an intense, almost physical panic when someone doesn't reply to your message for a few hours? Do you often think it's only a matter of time before they realize they don't need me? If you recognize yourself in at least 2 of these, this virus is active in your firmware. Your mind tells you, I am destined to be alone. But remember the cracked mirror. This isn't a prophecy. It's just old data from a time when you were a child and actually couldn't survive alone. But you are not that child anymore. Don't worry, later in this video, we are going to break down exactly how to repair this specific story and build a sense of permanent safety. But for now, let's move on to the second bug in the system. Next is the dependency story. While abandonment is the fear of being alone, dependency is the fear of being incapable. Imagine a child learning to ride a bike with training wheels. Normally, the wheels eventually come off. The child falls a few times, gets up, and learns to balance. But if you have this virus in your system, it's because you were never allowed to take those training wheels off. Perhaps you had helicopter parents who hovered over every task, or perhaps you were constantly told that the world was too dangerous for someone as fragile as you. As an adult, you are still riding that bike with training wheels. We call this the permanent sidekick mindset. How it manifests: analysis paralysis. You can't decide what to eat, what to wear, or which career path to take without polling 5 different friends. You don't trust your own internal GPS, so you constantly look for a signal from someone else. The invisible ceiling: you stay in low-level jobs or toxic relationships because you genuinely believe you wouldn't survive out there on your own. You feel like a child trapped in an adult suit, waiting for a real adult to come and give you permission to live. To understand if the dependency story is running your life, ask yourself these 3 questions. Do you feel like you need someone else's permission or blessing before making even minor changes in your life? Do you feel a sense of helplessness when you have to handle adult tasks alone, like taxes, house repairs, or navigating a new city? Do you often find yourself staying in bad situations simply because the thought of being responsible for your own life feels terrifying? If you recognize yourself here, your software is telling you that you're weak, but your hardware is actually capable of so much more. We're going to show you how to take those training wheels off later in the video. But first, let's look at the story that affects how you value yourself. The third story is perhaps the most painful, the unworthy story. While other stories are about what people might do to you, this one is about who you think you are. If the mirror your parents held up was constantly critical, cold, or dismissive, you didn't just feel unloved, you felt defective. It's like being a high-end computer that is convinced its core processor is made of cardboard. We call this imposter syndrome on steroids. How it manifests: the mask wear. You are terrified that if people really knew you, they would be repulsed. So you build a perfect high-achieving persona. You are the perfect employee or the perfect partner, but inside you feel like a fraud waiting to be exposed. Hypersensitivity. A tiny piece of constructive feedback feels like a total assassination of your character, because you already believe you are bad. Any criticism feels like the final proof. To see if the unworthy story is running in your background, ask yourself these 3 questions. When someone praises you, do you immediately think, if only they knew the real me, they wouldn't say that? Do you feel a deep sense of shame when you make a mistake, even if it's a small one that no one else noticed? Do you constantly compare yourself to others and always conclude that you are lesser or broken in some fundamental way? Recognizing this story is the first step toward realizing that the defect isn't in you, it's in the mirror you were forced to look into. We'll show you how to rewrite this later, but first, let's look at the wall some of us build to stay safe. Some stories don't make us clingy or incompetent, they make us distant. This is the disconnection story. Imagine living inside a room made of armored glass. You can see the world, you can talk to people, but you can't actually feel them, and they can't feel you. This story usually starts in families where emotions were taboo. If you were told to stop crying or that emotions are a weakness, your brain decided that the only way to survive was to cut the wires to your heart. How it manifests: the lone wolf. You take pride in not needing anyone. You are the rock, the stoic one, but deep down, you feel incredibly lonely. Even in a crowded room, the surface leveler. You have 500 friends, but no one you can call at 2 a.m. You keep conversations light and funny, because the moment things get deep, your system triggers a security breach and you shut down. Do you have the disconnection bug? Let's find out. Do you find it difficult to identify what you are actually feeling in moments of stress? Do you feel like a spectator in your own life, watching things happen rather than experiencing them? Do you often feel that no one truly knows the real you, and you're not even sure you want them to? If this sounds like you, your system has prioritized security over connection. It's a lonely way to live, but it is fixable. Let's look at the final two stories before we get into the repair manual. The fifth bug in the system is the mistrust story. If this virus is active in your code, you don't just walk through life. You probe the ground like a bomb squad technician. For you, the world isn't a playground, it's a minefield. This code is usually installed in a childhood where the people closest to you were sources of pain, lies, or manipulation. If those who were supposed to protect you used you for their own ends or betrayed your confidence, your brain learned one brutal lesson: never lower your shield. If you open up, you get hit. How it manifests: the detective. You are constantly searching for hidden motives. If someone gives you a compliment or offers help, your first thought is, what do they want from me? Or what's their angle? The secret keeper. You share almost nothing about yourself. You believe that any information you give will eventually be weaponized against you. You live in isolation even when you're in a relationship, because true intimacy requires vulnerability, and for you, vulnerability feels like a death sentence. In psychology, there are 3 simple questions to test yourself and see if the mistrust story is running your background. Do you find yourself waiting for the other shoe to drop or expecting betrayal as soon as things start going too well? Do you feel a constant need to check facts or monitor people's actions because you don't believe they will be honest with you? Do you feel that most people are inherently selfish and will always choose their own interests over yours? If you recognized yourself in at least 2 out of 3, your firewall is set to paranoia mode. It protected you in the past, but today it's preventing the very connections that could actually make you happy. We'll talk about how to start trusting safely in a moment. But first, the final story. The 6th and final story is the failure story. This is the core belief that you are fundamentally incapable of success. We call this hard-coded defeat. If you grew up being constantly compared to more successful peers, or if your parents dismissed your achievements with "you could have done better," your system recorded a devastating line of code: I am a failure by definition. How it manifests: self-sabotage. You start a project with massive enthusiasm, but as soon as success becomes real, you accidentally ruin it. You show up late to the final meeting, you forget to send the crucial email, or you just quit. It's a subconscious attempt to confirm your story. See, I told you I couldn't do it. The underachiever. You choose goals that are way below your actual potential. You stay in a job you outgrew years ago because you're convinced that any attempt to climb higher will end in public humiliation. Let's see if this bug is blocking your potential. Do you believe that most people around you are naturally more talented or smart, while you are a perpetual outsider? Do you frequently quit things right before the finish line, finding objective excuses to walk away? Do you feel like a total imposter when you do succeed, waiting for everyone to realize it was just a fluke? If this code is running in your head, you're living with your hands tied behind your back. But remember what we said about neuroplasticity. Your brain can rewrite the ending of this book. Now that we've diagnosed all 6 viruses, it's time to enter the meaning lab and learn how to delete them. The biggest reason these 6 stories stay alive in your head is a glitch called emotional reasoning. It's a cognitive distortion where your brain assumes that because you feel something, it must be true. It looks like this in your code: I feel anxious, therefore I must be in danger. I feel guilty, therefore I must have done something wrong. I feel like an imposter, therefore I must be a fraud. But here is the truth. Your emotions are real, but they are not always reliable data. They are often just free-floating echoes of the past triggered by an old memory that has nothing to do with your current reality. To break this cycle, we use the truth protocol. When a negative story starts running, you must pause and run a manual override using these 3 steps. Step 1. Label the bug. Instead of saying, "I am a failure," try to catch the thought and rephrase it. Tell yourself, "I realize that I made a mistake on this project, but my overwhelming reaction is just a glitch tied to my failure story. This feeling doesn't define who I am." By naming the story, you pull yourself out of the screen and sit back in the operator's chair. You are the user. The story is just a faulty program running in the background. Step 2. The data audit. Ask yourself, what are the actual cold facts right now? If the abandonment story says your partner is leaving because they didn't text back, look at the data. The data says they are at work. They have a deadline. They loved me this morning. Step 3. Positive reprogramming. You need to overwrite the old code with new, stable lines of logic. We call these coping statements. Repeat them until they become your new default. My past does not define my future. My emotions are information, not reality. I can handle whatever happens next. Remember what we said about neuroplasticity. Every time you choose the truth protocol over the negative story, you are physically weakening the old neural pathways and building new ones. You are literally installing a new operating system, one line of code at a time. Remember what we said about neuroplasticity. Every time you choose the truth protocol over the negative story, you are physically weakening the old neural pathways and building new ones. You are literally installing a new operating system, one line of code at a time. Understanding the glitch is the first step, and the truth protocol is your daily patch. But if you want to perform a complete system reinstall, you need tools for deep-level configuration. We call this the system overhaul. Tool number 1, the reparenting script. Remember the cracked mirror from earlier. Those cracks were created by people who couldn't give you what you needed. Reparenting is the process of becoming the person who gives that to you now. Instead of waiting for the world to tell you that you're worthy or safe, you write a new policy for yourself. When the unworthy story screams, "You're a failure," you don't argue with it. You talk to that younger version of yourself, the one who first believed that lie, and you say, "I see you're scared, but I am the adult here now. I will not let that old mirror define us anymore. We are doing fine." Tool number 2, behavioral hypothesis testing. This is a high-level technique used in clinical therapy. The negative stories in your head are just hypotheses, unproven theories. To delete them, you need to prove them wrong in the real world. We call this the reality experiment. If your story is mistrust, your experiment is to share one small low-risk secret with a friend and see if the world ends. If your story is failure, your experiment is to try a brand new hobby where you are allowed to be bad at it, just to prove that failing at a task doesn't make you a failure. Here is a small action with a massive effect. We want you to try the experiment of truth for the next 7 days. Pick the one story that resonated with you most today. For the next week, every time that story speaks, you are going to perform one opposite action. If your dependency story tells you to ask for advice, Decide for yourself. If your abandonment story tells you to check your partner's phone, put your phone in another room and do 5 minutes of deep breathing instead. You aren't just trying a new habit. You are gathering data to show your brain that the old code is obsolete. You are proving to your nervous system that you are safe, you are capable, and you are in control. We've spent a lot of time today looking at the bugs in your code. We've looked at the cracked mirrors of your past and the 6 stories that have tried to convince you that you are broken, incapable, or destined to be alone. But here is the final truth of the Meaning Lab. You are not your stories. You are the conscious observer who has survived every single one of those glitches. You are the one who had the courage to open this video and look directly at the shadows in your programming. That act alone is a sign that your system override has already begun. The reality firmware that was installed in you as a child was not your choice. But as an adult, the edit button is now in your hands. Because of neuroplasticity, every time you use the truth protocol, every time you run a reality experiment, you are literally dragging your future out of the grip of your past. From this moment on, let this be your new code. I am not a reflection of someone else's cracked mirror. I am not a victim of my early programming. I am the author of the story I am writing today. We want to hear from you. Which of these 6 stories has been playing the loudest in your head lately? Write the name of that story in the comments below, and then write 1 sentence about the new story you are starting today. When you name it and share it, you take away its power. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep system audits and mental health toolkits. Remember, your brain is dynamic, your code is rewritable, and your best chapters are yet to be told. Thanks for watching.